rare book published in the year 1909, 10 years prior to the formation of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, bears the symbol of the swastika on the side cover. The first chapter discusses Aryan root races. The author, John Yarker, a 33rd degree Freemason and Grand Master of the Rite of Memphis, Mizraim. Browsing Amazon, we see the original publication is sold out, and the picture of the side cover conveniently blocked out by a light streak. Although the symbol of the swastika dates back to antiquity, the combination of the swastika and the notion of Aryanism is a relatively recent ideology. We can trace this occult doctrine directly to Freemasonry. Now the question becomes, how did a uniquely acquired Masonic doctrine become the lifeline of the Nazi Party? John Yarker is the key. The connection between Nazism and Freemasonry can be traced through him. On August 8, 1935, via the Völkische Observer, Adolf Hitler announced the final dissolution of all German Masonic lodges. This is ironic because the Völkische Observer, Hitler's official newspaper of the Nazi Party, was originally the newspaper of the Thule Society, or as some pronounce it, Thule Society. The Thule Society was the occult organization that in the year 1919 was transformed into Hitler's National Socialist Party. The head of Thule was Rudolf Sabbatendorf, who was a Freemason. In the year 1901, Sabbatendorf joined John Yarker's Rite of Memphis, and was initially introduced to Freemasonry, ironically, through a Jewish family, specifically the Termudi family. The symbol of Sabbatendorf's Thule Society was the swastika, and its primary focus concerned the Germanic origins of the Aryan race. A member of Thule, Dr. Friedrich Krohn, was the man who chose the swastika as the symbol for the Nazi Party. During the early 1900s, Thule housed many key members of the future Nazi Party, including Alfred Rosenberg, Rudolf Hess, and the mystic Heinrich Himmler. Dietrich Eckart, the well-known occultist who was responsible for shaping and molding the temperament of Adolf Hitler, also attended Thule meetings. In 1920, it was Eckart who purchased the Völkische Observer, and 1 year later, in 1921, Hitler took full control. For the next 25 years, it became the official public face of the Nazi Party. Sabbatendorf would later write a book entitled Before Hitler Came. In it, he stated, quote, "Thulers were the ones whom Hitler first came, and Thulers were the first to unite themselves with Hitler," unquote. Unsurprisingly, Sabbatendorf's book was banned by the Nazi Party. Although Thule dissolved as the Nazis rose to power, the iconography and ideology of Thule continued to live on through the Reich.
The curved swastika of Thule, chosen from the many popularized by Guido von List, will not be forgotten by the party to which Thule gave birth. It will live on the belt buckles of the brown-shirted stormtroopers. The ceremonial swords of the Luftwaffe will bear the Thule swastika. Decorations for anti-partisan warfare on the Eastern Front will display the Thule dagger and the curved swastika. Whatever the form in which the swastika will appear in the banners and regalia of National Socialism, its meaning will remain the same. It is the sign of creation, the sign of the mystical destiny of Aryan man.
What was it that attracted Sabbatendorf to John Yarker's Rite of Memphis? And is it possible to make sense of the embarrassing fact that Sabbatendorf, who was the leader of the organization that was the direct forerunner to the Nazi Party, was not only a Freemason, but was under the influence of Jewish Masons, the very exact thing the Nazis preached against? To make sense of this glaring contradiction, we turn to the foundation of Germanic Aryanism during the 19th century. According to Jocelyn Godwin, the well-respected historian of the Western esoteric tradition, there were three main channels disseminating the notion of Germanic Aryanism in 19th and 20th century Germany. One was Sabbatendorf's Thule Society. The second was Guido von List's List Society. And the third was Lanz von Liebenfeld's Astara and Order of the New Templars. All three occult societies had several common themes. One was that all three adopted the symbol of the swastika and incorporated it into the symbol of the Aryan. Two was that all three occult societies were formed on the basis of Freemasonry, and all three founders were heavily influenced by the Theosophical Society. Any authoritative history of Nazism and the occult will come across the Theosophical Society. It is from the Theosophical Society where we can connect Freemasonry, Aryanism, and the swastika. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, born into a Russian-German aristocratic family, was the founder of the Theosophical Society. She wrote extensively about the connection between Aryan root races and the swastika.
Madame Blavatsky claims that this knowledge and more she has learned through initiation into the mysteries of 7 esoteric symbols. Of these 7 symbols, one she believed to be more potent than any other. The symbol is the swastika. In Tibetan mythology, the swastika is the sign of Agni, the god of the sun, of fire, and of creation. For Madame Blavatsky, each cycle of creation has associated with it 7 stages of human evolution. Stages she calls root races. The race which will begin once more, the ascent from darkness to the light of the spirit, she names Aryan. In the occult teachings of Madame Blavatsky, the sign of the Aryan is the swastika.
Blavatsky was friends with none other than John Yarker. In 1877, after writing Isis Unveiled and forming the Theosophical Society, John Yarker conferred upon Blavatsky a Masonic diploma. Upon receiving the diploma, an elated Blavatsky stated, quote, "I feel highly honored by the distinction conferred upon me by Brother Yarker. I mean to stand for my chartered rights, and to recognize no other authority than that of the High Masons of England, who have been pleased to send me this unsolicited and unexpected testimonial of their approval of my humble labors." Unquote. Blavatsky's Masonic connections were extensive. The Theosophical Society, for example, had an inner core of initiates, which was called the Esoteric Section. Blavatsky maintained that no one was eligible for membership in this body who belonged to any other secret body, Masons alone excepted. Joseph Fussell, a 32nd degree Mason, Theosophist, and member of the Esoteric Section, revealed that after Blavatsky died in 1891, Catherine Tingley and William Q. Judge maintained the relationship between Masons and the Esoteric Section. The relationship between Blavatsky and Freemasons started in the year 1863. Blavatsky was initiated into Freemason Giuseppe Mazzini and Freemason Giuseppe Garibaldi's Carbonari Revolutionary Masonic Society. Blavatsky was so consumed with Garibaldi's cause that she fought alongside Garibaldi in the Battle of Mantana, where she almost died, having received multiple wounds, including being shot in the leg, right shoulder, and stabbed near the heart. After nearly dying on the battlefield, Blavatsky went to Paris, where she became under the influence of a certain Victor Michael, another occult Freemason. And according to René Guénon, a former member of the Theosophical Society, it was Michael who developed Madame Blavatsky's mediumistic faculties, and in the later days, he always spoke with a certain horror of the, quote, split personality, unquote, that she displayed from that period onward. Guénon continues stating, "It is legitimate to conclude that Madame Blavatsky was above all, in many circumstances, a subject or an instrument in the hands of individuals or occult groups, sheltering behind her personality, in the same way as others were in their turn instruments in her hands. Madame Blavatsky seems to be a pawn in a much larger game." On the subject of the Carbonari, Blavatsky wrote, "Of all these degenerated children of Chaldean occultism, including the numerous societies of Freemasons, only one of them in the present century is worth mentioning in relation to occultism, namely, the Carbonari." A leader of the Carbonari and close friend of Blavatsky was Giuseppe Garibaldi. He was a 33rd degree Freemason and Grand Master of the Grand Orient of Italy. He was a close friend of John Yarker, and in the year 1881, he and John Yarker fused together the Rite of Memphis and the Rite of Mizraim, the very society that John Yarker became Grand Master of in 1902, the very society Sabbatendorf, founder of Thule, was affiliated with. Having been the founder of many quasi-Masonic secret societies, Yarker found himself at the center of the revolutionary movement. Yes, John Yarker is the key, but he is not the mastermind. He was an initiate of an even higher elitist Rosicrucian society that connects to the Carbonari, the Rite of Memphis Mizraim, the Theosophical Society, right down to the Thule Society, namely the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, or SRIA. Only Master Masons were allowed to be members of SRIA. The Masons involved in SRIA were responsible for spawning many esoteric orders. The supreme magus of the order was William Wynne Westcott, Grand Master of the prestigious Freemasonic Research Lodge located in London. Westcott was a theosophist, a ceremonial magician, and co-founder of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Members of his SRIA included the aforementioned John Yarker, Eliphas Levi, who was the ceremonial magician and true author behind Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, Theodore Roos, the Freemason, Prussian spy, and friend of Aleister Crowley, forming the Ordo Templi Orientis, MacGregor Mathers, co-founder of the Golden Dawn and ceremonial magician and founder of the Stella Matutina Lodge. The founder of SRIA was Freemason Robert Wentworth Little, who served as the clerk within the United Grand Lodge of England and co-founder of Yarker's and Garibaldi's Rite of Memphis and Mizraim. Along with being Masons, many of the members of the SRIA were also members of the Theosophical Society. Concerning SRIA, in the year 1930, Lady Queensborough made the following recommendation, quote, "A thorough study of a Rosicruciana in Anglia, or SRIA, and its various branches will be a great step taken in the direction of uncovering much of the political and moral chaos of present-day history of humanity," unquote. The members within SRIA declared their grand patron none other than Edward Bulwer Lytton, the famous English novelist, Rosicrucian, and Freemason. It is directly from Bulwer Lytton where Blavatsky received her concept of Aryan It is Bulwer Lytton who wrote Vril, The Power of the Coming Race. The notion of Vril was heavily incorporated into the works of Blavatsky, and although it has never been proven, some say there was a secret occult Nazi society named Vril. Blavatsky adored Bulwer Lytton, and after Lytton's death, she, along with Freemason and Round Table member Rudyard Kipling, would visit Robert Bulwer Lytton, Edward's son. Both Rudyard Kipling and Blavatsky would adopt the swastika as their symbol. And to bring this full circle, it was Edward Bulwer Lytton who wrote the novel Rienzi. Rienzi was then transformed into an opera by Freemason Richard Wagner. Wagner was Hitler's favorite composer and Rienzi his favorite opera. And at each Nuremberg rally, Hitler ordered that the overture from Wagner's Rienzi was to be played, an opera that evolved from the grand patron of SRIA, the same SRIA that housed Freemasons and Theosophists, the same Theosophists who evolved the concept of Arianism, the same Arianism that was disseminated throughout Germany through Theosophical and Masonic channels such as Savattendorf's Thule Society, the same Thule Society that transformed Arianism into a Germanic ideology, and the same Thule Society that influenced the Nazi Party. Edward Bulwer Lytton, Blavatsky's inspiration and grand patron of SRIA. For someone who despised Masonry, for someone who pledged that Masonry was a part of the big Jewish conspiracy, Hitler borrowed from the Masons his entire ideology. Even his favorite opera was Masonic. Former member of the Nazi Party, Hermann Reuschning, wrote the book Hitler Speaks in the year 1939, based upon his interactions and conversations with Hitler. According to Reuschning, Hitler stated, quote, "All the supposed abominations, the skeletons and death's heads, the coffins and the mysteries are mere bogies for children. But there is one dangerous element, and that is the element I have copied from them. They form a sort of priestly nobility. They have developed an esoteric doctrine, not merely formulated, but imparted through the symbols and mysteries and degrees of initiation. The hierarchical organization and the initiation through symbolic rites, that is to say, without bothering the brain, but by working on the imagination through magic and the symbols of a cult. All this has a dangerous element, and the element I have taken over. Don't you see that our party has to be of this character? An order, that is what it has to be. An order, the hierarchical order of a secular priesthood," unquote.